everyone, and welcome to the keynote for today's Brady Ware Take 5 Nonprofit Leadership Conference. Our topic today is the permanent pivot, post-pandemic fundraising strategies and tactics. So let's dive right in. My name is Maureen Wallbeoff. I'm a nonprofit digital strategist and technology coach. And for more than 17 years, I don't want to tell you how many, I have been working inside and alongside nonprofit organizations, helping them make really great decisions about their technology. All of those databases and email marketing tools and TikToks and integrations that we all have to deal with to engage our supporters and raise money for our missions. For some reason, this is my passion in life. I'm completely agnostic. I don't care what people use as long as they are the right systems for their needs and budget. I'm lucky enough to live in beautiful Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and the message and the thread that you're going to hear throughout this keynote today is that it is possible to level it up. It's possible to do things a little bit better than last year. So let's get started. Okay. I'm going to take us to 2020 just at the very beginning, and then we're going to scoot out and focus on 2021 and beyond. But no one, not one of us was prepared for 2020. Not one of us was prepared for all of the changes that 2020 brought because of the pandemic. We all, in March sometime of last year, many of us grabbed our stuff and left our offices. Maybe we had a place to work at home, maybe we didn't. Maybe we had a camera, maybe we didn't. We just had to kind of hunker down and make the best of it. No prep. Everybody had to do a little bit of distance learning, not just the kids, if they're in your household or in your family, but we adults had to learn how to work like this. We had to learn how to collaborate with our teams at a distance. Again, no preparation for any of this. We were just sort of tossed in. Technology adoption. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Whether you have a server that's in your office that normally somebody manages sitting in your physical space, or suddenly you had to start to use Zoom and Teams, and we had to figure it out on our own. Really challenging. And virtual events, whether we pivoted and put them on, whether we always had some kind of virtual component to our events, we had to figure it out on the fly. And combined with the global pandemic, 2020 just was full of stress and worry and discomfort, no matter where you looked. I had to giggle a little bit when I found this image because, you know, here's a person in the dark with a mask on, valiantly trying to stay connected. And we all felt like this to one degree or another last year. So, unplanned change plus deadly virus. Last year was a lot of like our inner children were yelling, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making this up even more than I normally do. Now, the thing about nonprofits that was beneficial for last year is we are typically a reactive people. We may put plans down, we may have a strategic plan, an annual plan, and if you, your team, and your organization are actually really great at being proactive and executing on your plans, awesome, I'm cheering for you. But in my experience, many nonprofits are pretty reactive. We deal with the thing that's in front of us, kind of have tunnel vision about those other things that we thought were going to happen, that we thought we're going to work on. And last year, you know, it was the unprepared's time to shine just a little bit. Now, 2020 did have an impact on fundraising, and I'm a real believer in you got to look back to kind of inform the future. Got to take some past data along with my gut and my brain and figure out what the next year or two is going to look like for us, because nobody really knows. There's nobody out there who's got it figured out, who's got a roadmap, who's feeling comfortable and confident about what's going to happen in December. Now, 2020 for digital people like me, was an amazing year for digital engagement, communication, community, fundraising, all that good stuff. Online revenue for nonprofits last year increased by 32%. And, you know, for years we've been watching it go 5%, 8%, 11%. It went up by 32% last year for obvious reasons, right? Nonprofits who address with hunger and food scarcity and poverty issues saw a 173% increase in online revenue for obvious reasons. All of us who look at the animal organizations, right, the puppy and kitten orgs or the polar bear orgs, and we think, oh, you guys have it made. You always raise more money than the rest of us. Got blown out of the water by folks who are working on scarcity issues, real human need issues. Every single digital channel saw growth. Email lists were up by 3%, pretty good. Twitter followers, 25% increase. And mobile audiences, people who did things on their phones or tablets, grew by 26%. I think it's because we were home. And if we normally have laptops or we normally have desktops in our workplaces, we often didn't have those things for the past year. 50% of visits to nonprofit websites were on a phone or a tablet. 50%, huge increase. So one little takeaway message here as we reflect is if you have not looked at your website on a phone in a while or your donation form on a tablet in a while, you might want to do that because people are seeing that version of your site and it may not be what you expect it to be. And finally, nonprofits did expand their investment in digital, including advertising, Google ads, Facebook ads, et cetera. And the average increase was about 33%. So if you didn't do any of that stuff last year, that's fine. But the folks who did or who started it for the first time actually threw some money at it. I thought this would be helpful, again, for some context, to see what patterns we've all been living with over the past 5 years, because 2020 is really going to be a huge outlier no matter how you look at it. So in 2016, again, this is average, all orgs, all missions, all channels. The average gift in 2016 was about $250. And then you can see how it's crept up to $267 in 2017. $300, give or take, in 2018. 2019 grew quite a bit to $327. And then 2020 did dip down a little bit. And one thing that I would love to have you all do is pay attention to these numbers and go back and look at your own performance. How did you do in 2017? Was your average donation amount $260? Was it $700? Was it $20? It's really helpful to see how you track or don't along with others of our peers in our nonprofit fundraising world. Last year, big growth, big growth. The average online donation was $241. The year before, it was $137. So it grew really appreciably. You can see that across all subsectors, every single type of nonprofit, every vertical or mission, everybody's average donation was $737. That's pretty high. Again, most of it comes in December, 20% or so. That's how our world turns. And overall, year over year, according to the Blackbaud benchmark study, we all saw about a 2% increase in overall giving from last year. So check your own stats, see how you did. All right, little tough love time now. I'm a lifer. I've been working in nonprofits since the 90s. I'm not going anywhere, but our industry needed a shakeup. We have kind of been frozen in time for many years. We might change our stories, we might change our images, maybe we're playing with Instagram, but most of our fundraising program is pretty steady. I could present a keynote from 2015, and it might be irrelevant to a couple of people, but mostly it's the same advice, because we kind of been taking it a little easy. Not that we don't work hard, but innovation and change and risk, especially around fundraising and donors, no thank you. But it took a global pandemic for us to get shaken up a little bit. We as an industry live with things too long. Website hasn't been updated since 2008. People want to pay with Google Wallet and Apple Pay, but it's not worth the type of change or investment in time or money that it would take to add that to my donation forms. Technology has been here all along, waiting for us to catch up and start to, out of a bit of desperation last year, start to play with some stuff, try some stuff out. We kind of had no choice as an industry. All right, I guess I better figure out how to send text messages to my board members, or use Zoom, or have a virtual event. It took this moment for us all to really pivot. And what the message of this keynote, and actually I think the underlying song of this whole conference, is it's time to lean into that new stuff. It would be the worst outcome ever if we went through all of this change and reactivity to make it through 2020 and not keep going and just say, all right, it's 2022. I can do my events the way I did in 2017. That would be a real shame, not only for you and your organization, but for your supporters. Your supporters have been waiting for you to mix it up a little bit, and they liked what they saw in 2020. You can tell by those giving rates that we just went through. People embraced it. They leaned into it. And as nonprofit fundraisers, marketers, leaders, we've got to give our supporters what they want in order to meet our missions. There's no new normal. Even if we're all vaccinated, traveling, mask-free, elbow to elbow in airports and conference rooms, we have come out the other side of something that has changed all of us forever. And the lesson here is that you never know what's going to happen next year. We just don't. And so being agile, being prepared for a permanent pivot, embracing things that might be new and unwieldy, and I don't know, and I don't use them myself. These are the places of power for us, the places of control, the places of real proactivity in the midst of our reactivity, right? So embracing digital tactics, experimenting with stuff, having a learning stance is going to help all of us stay relevant. If you haven't changed for a long time, you've got a certain mission, and another organization that's a little more tech friendly, a little more polished, a little more leading edge. I won't even say cutting edge or bleeding edge. A little bit more with it, your supporters are going to migrate there, because that's the kind of stuff that they want and expect. You're not going to be able to serve them up the Amazon experience or the Netflix experience, but you can move the needle. You can make small steps to level it up. And it's not just about technology, it's about attitudes, because people use technology, external people like our donors and funders, internal people like our teams and ourselves. We've got to be able to model willingness to maybe make a guess and get it wrong, maybe have an unintended outcome. That's what this is going to take, is let's try it and see. Now, I hear these myths all the time, and I bet that you believe at least one of them. And they're not new. They've been around for a really long time. So I've got 3 big digital fundraising myths that I want to bust for you today. We all believe some of them, like My parents are boomers, and I have some beliefs about what they're good at and not good at based on personal experience when it comes to technology. But some of the myths that we believe about what our supporters will do, what we should offer them, get in our way and kind of prevent success. Nobody right now should be thinking that all you need is a website and PayPal, and wow, we can hire 100 new staff. Wow, we can up our healthcare. Wow, we can help more people. We know it takes more than that, but we all kind of wish that Glinda would sort of show up and make all this stuff happen. Digital myth numero 1. Old folks don't use technology. Just stop it. Stop thinking it. Stop saying it. It is not true. And it has not been true for about 10 years now. So if you carry this, nobody's going to be making a gift on a phone. Yes, they are. So stop. Baby boomers are joining social media sites faster than any other age group. And I understand why, because it's a place of community and connectivity. I can't see my grandchildren or my kids, but I can find out what they're doing on Facebook. I can like their pictures and their posts. 68% of baby boomers and 40% of greatest gens own some kind of smartphone. That means they can do things on their phone besides call and text. I love these last two stats. Online donors 65 and up, online donors 65 and up have the highest retention rate of any donor age channel. Donors 55 and up have the highest retention rates for online and offline. And if you look at this daily internet use, like Snap, this chart, look at not that much difference between 18 to 29, 30 to 49, 50 to 64, almost 100% every day. 65 and up, 75% of those people use the internet every day. So they are there. They might like your direct mail, but they're also checking you out online. Now, digital myth number 2, virtual events lose money. Oh, I've heard this for years. And again, 2020 kind of proved that that wasn't true. So here's a fascinating stat that I found to share today. Over 2020, the average amount raised by a nonprofit event from donations, not ticket sales or auctions, just gifts, grew by 67.4% last year. Hopped up from 1,300 in 2019 and about 2,300 in 2020. So that's a pretty huge jump. And this is about the numbers game. This is about fewer big gifts, more smaller gifts. So while in a physical gala setting, you might actually be able to get big checks, big pledges from a handful of people in that audience, that's probably not going to happen at a virtual event. But in a virtual event, you can invite way more people, and more of them are going to make smaller donations. So you come out ahead in the end. Now, as I said, I'm based in Massachusetts. I have clients actually in all parts of the world. And one of my clients is the San Francisco Boys and Girls Club. Love them, awesome team, great mission. They invited me to attend their Youth of the Year Awards in February. I never would have gone if I had to get on a plane and go to San Francisco, but all I had to do was sit in my living room and kind of log on. And for an hour, I watched stories of these kids at each of their clubs, and I wept. I wept and I gave, because they brought me in a way that was meaningful, even though I don't live near them. I don't know anybody who's a worker at a club or a kid who goes to a club of that particular organization, but they shared people stories in a way that was convenient for me, and it was moving. So digital myth number 2, virtual events do not lose money. Third digital myth to bust with you today is that donors only use one channel. My online people are only going to give online. My direct mail people or my phone people are only going to give through the channels that they've already given. That is no longer the case, and it's really starting to change more rapidly as of 2019. I got some stats here for you. Let's start left to right. Millennial donors worldwide prefer to give online, credit, debit card, and then cash. They got cash, kids do. And they're most inspired to give by social media, then email, website, direct mail, irrelevant for these kids. PayPal, irrelevant for millennials. And millennials are about to turn 40. So they are not the little kids that we sort of have in our minds when we think about the word millennial and what that actually signifies. The column in the middle is Gen Xers, right? These are people who are in their, from their middle 40s to kind of middle 50s, early 60s, depending on where you draw the line. They too prefer to give online, same as the millennials. But then, because some of these people are wealthy, they prefer to give bank wire transfer or ACH or EFT, checks online. Cash, PayPal, most inspired to give, again, by social media, email, website, direct mail, not so much. And then over on the far right-hand side, the baby boomer donors also like to give online. It's like, it might as well be the same, 55, 55, 54. But then for the boomers, mail becomes their second preferred channel. Bank, wire transfer, PayPal, less than the millennials. So if all you have is a PayPal donation form right now, that is something that I would write down, and I would figure out how to level that up in 2021. And boomers are most inspired to give by email, then social media, then direct mail, then website. So kind of interesting, right? We need to change how we think about donors and generations and channels. I couldn't be sincere talking about 2020 and 2021 and beyond if I didn't spend a minute talking about change and dealing with change. I love this image because last year it felt like, boom, everything got turned upside down. Everybody went home and hunkered down for at least a couple of months. And in the nonprofit sort of thought leadership world, everybody started doing webinars. Everybody started having checklists, and here's how to do digital, and don't forget to do that. And now you need to do your Instagram donate button. And I felt like nonprofits had fallen overboard. We're in the ocean a little bit. And everybody who works with nonprofits kind of took a life preserver and chucked it at them. It was too much. We were dealing with all of those things that I went over at the beginning of this session. We were home, our kids were home, we were worried about ourselves and our loved ones. It was a healthcare crisis. So that fire hose of like, do it like this, here's how to do a virtual event, here's how to start peer-to-peer fundraising. It was too much for many of us. It was way too much for me, and I do this all the time. So it's not a news flash that change is challenging for everybody, for-profit, nonprofit, no matter what your title is. And it's hardwired into us. We resist change, even good changes, because we worry that we're going to lose status, lose something of value, or that like, I'm not going to be able to do it like this. You want me to send text messages to our donors? Are you kidding me? I don't know how to do that. I'm going to get it wrong. So it's easy to see where that resistance comes from, because it really does threaten our safety and security. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get demoted. I'm going to become irrelevant. Good change brings all this too. And nonprofit leaders who only see the transactional side, right? Like, now we're going to send text messages to our donors. What's the big deal? You send me texts all the time. Fundraising person, just start sending them to our donors. They're going to be trying to pull and tug very resistant team members along for the ride. And it's going to be a bad use of your energy, your time, and your brain power. You got to kind of do the people thing that leaders need to do. Address what's in it for them. Well, Bob, if you start to text our donors and it seems like we're seeing a drop off, people are unsubscribing from our texts, we're going to have to switch it up and maybe do it differently. Or, hey, Bob, I'm going to give you training. I'm going to pay for a couple courses for you to learn how to do this right so that you feel like I'm behind you. I'm ensuring your success and I'm removing some barriers. Great leaders bring people along. They don't just say, hey, we're going to do it like this now. And that's true for people who don't have leadership authority, let's say, but they want to do something new and they're trying to bring resistant leaders along. Resistant leader, I want you to start texting our top 5 major donors. What? No, that's not a business method of communication. So what's in it for that leader? Well, we've got a record of it. Well, more texts are read more frequently than any email message or phone message is heard. So you're likely to actually make a connection with those major donors. So it's about meeting people where they're at, consulting your team or experts, and making people active participants in the journey. Don't just hand it down from on high. Another thing that I think is very helpful when we think about change is the J curve. I did not invent this. It's been around for about 50 or 60 years, and it is a fascinating chart. So let me just unpack this for you. The blue line, that bright blue line, is our current state. No, we're sort of 2019, doing the same thing. And if we need to make a change, I bring in a new database or I hire a new VP of marketing. I change our vendors, whatever happens to be. We expect what's going to happen is the minute we make that change, dotty red line plays in and we are at our desired state. Boop, hired a new person. Isn't that marvelous? Things have changed overnight. That's not what really happens. What happens is if we use a new database, for example, or start texting our donors, it's going to take longer. There's this blue dip in that current state where it is the period of disruption. I got to think about it. I got to learn about it. I'm going to get it wrong. I have to practice. I'm going to procrastinate because I don't want to get it wrong. I've done it the old way for so long, I don't have to think about it anymore. It's just fast and easy, even if it's not a seamless or smooth process. The minute I start doing something different, learning how to drive a stick shift or something, we're all of a sudden in the learning seat and it's going to take longer to get things done before we start to see tangible benefits. So if your team is feeling fatigued by the amount of change that you're throwing at them, or you feel like blink, our performance should go up dramatically overnight, please recalibrate your expectations of yourselves and others, because all this change, and we're not done with it, all of this change takes a toll. So we can't be changing all the time. We have to give our teams time to settle in, but not become calcified and so cozy that we aren't open to new stuff. Here's 6 tips for you and your team when it comes to embracing change. Use data to inform your decisions, like really know the numbers on things. That learning stance, maintain that. I wonder what's going to happen. I think this is going to happen, but I'm prepared for something different as an outcome. I'm going to resist the urge to return to the past, to kind of boing back to 2015, the glory days of 2015, where I just did a lot of what I have always done, and it's been fine. It's not broken. You need to model agility. If you have resistance in yourself, own it and kind of work on it and be transparent about it with your team. This is a hard change. I believe we can all get through it together. We're going to help each other. Invest in training for your team. If you're going to start to do peer-to-peer fundraising or something like that, Just a login and a video is not enough. Please, please, please invest in some kind of training for your team to do good things with all this technology and digital stuff. And it's really important to reward innovation and new ideas. If you've got a millennial or a Gen Z bouncing around your team, and they're always the ones who say, I want to try to video you, we're going to do a TikTok channel. And you're like, get out of here. I don't want to talk about it. That is not going to make them continue to bounce in with their ideas. They're going to get the message that you're not receptive. So be honest with yourself about rewarding innovation and new ideas. That's the people, because people use technology. Now let's talk about your technology. Many of us, and I've talked to a lot of people over the past year who we don't have shared calendars. I don't know. I used to just walk down the hall and find out when Bob was free. Now I got to look at their calendar and figure it out, or send 800 texts or use Slack. Get your arms around what you have inside your organization. It's not a fancy thing. Just write down the list of the stuff that you have: database, email tool, volunteer registration system, forms, all of that stuff. Write it down, write the product name down, and write down a grade. Is it an A? Is it an F? Is it a B plus on most days? Just orient yourself to all of that stuff. It's the step on the way to owning it and making it work like a tool, so that you get a return on your investment. You need to clean up your data, my friends. Everybody's got a bit of a hot data mess on their hands. So this would be the year, 2021, to finally clean that up. Leverage functionality you have. You're probably paying for stuff that you're not using. Cell phone, right? Smartphone. I use about 6 apps on this thing. They're the right apps for me, so it's worth the investment, but I could be doing a lot more with that particular phone. Figure out how to move data between systems. It's data equalization. It's my email sign up form people get moved into my fundraising database, and now I can cultivate them and try to get them to become a donor, a member, a volunteer. Figure out where your single source of truth is. What's the place where enough information about my supporters lives, so I can get a clear picture about what they're doing and what they're not doing, and use that for this last bullet to personalize your email and your appeals. People know we're being tracked every day. We're being tracked constantly. And our supporters expect that we are going to use that data to give them a more personalized experience. If you know somebody's a cat person, put a picture of a cat on the donation form that you send them to. If you know they're a dog person, do that. Find out what your supporters love about your organization and your mission. Serve it back to them. It's going to bring them closer to you and increase the likelihood that they're going to stick around supporting you year over year. Best practices and tactics for 2021. I want you to be brilliant. We are, again, comfortable with reactive. We're comfortable with resilience. We kind of can make a lot happen on not much in terms of investment. So it's a perfect place for us to get a little intelligent. 4 big lessons for 2021 that we learned last year. You got to meet your supporters where they are. If they're on TikTok, go there. You can't stay stuck. You cannot say agility, schmagility. You need to remain nimble. Use data, as I've just said, to deliver a personalized experience to your supporters. They expect it. They deserve it. We expect it from organizations that we support. And remember that people want to help other people. So put faces to your organization, share photos and stories about your team, your volunteers, your donors, the people that you help, the people that you serve, how you make the world a better place. Share that out. First person, if you can. Have somebody just take a quick little video of themselves doing their job. And you would be amazed at how viral those things can go. I bet like me, you've got a lot of things that you've been putting off for a long time. Now's the time. Wherever you are in your fiscal year, whether you're, in May and you're almost halfway through your fiscal, or July is coming up or October is coming up, plan to do a little bit of investment in that list of stuff that you've been putting off and assign owners to them. That's how stuff gets done, right? If it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job. So find out what your list of stuff is that needs to get leveled up, fixed, addressed, that we've just been living with for a long time because we're nonprofits and we're good at that. Assign somebody to see that through. Optimize your website for giving. Remember, 50% of visits to nonprofit websites on a smart device or tablet. Get serious about your monthly donors. If you don't have a monthly giving program, start one now. Start one now. They will float you. They are a predictable source of revenue. People at every single age group and every single channel like the convenience of monthly giving. So if you're not super sold on that, or you don't think your donors will do it, do a test. Add monthly giving to your donation form, see what happens, and play with those levels. Maybe it's $10 a month, maybe it's 25, maybe it's 5, but that's still $60 in a year. And if your average gift is 30, you just doubled it in a year without doing anything except adding that option to your donation form. Automate as much as possible. What I mean by that is things like welcoming a new donor or a new email subscriber, or maybe task management inside your team, right? Like you've got to call 5 donors this month. Automate the flag that puts that on your calendar or gives you a little notification. Hey, you've got 2 things that are due today. Let the machines do what the machines are good at, which is managing data and information. Update your social media profiles, your header images, your little logos, freshen it up a little bit. If stuff has been there for more than 3 years, you don't have to rebrand, just like elevate it a little bit. Give a visitor who goes to your Twitter feed something new and fresh to look at. Rewrite your donation autoresponders, please. This is like a personal thing for me. You need to be effusively thankful for your donors. It should not be transactional, even if you've got the donation amount and that kind of stuff in the email message. Should be personal, should be warm, should be very thankful, and should be personalized. So go take a look at yours, rewrite them, freshen them up. Freshen up your email templates too. Now would be a great time to redesign your newsletter, let's say, and video content. Video is shareable. Video is watched more and consumed more than any other content right now. And it lets you repurpose maybe big videos that you've done for a virtual event, chop them up and start posting them on social media or sending them out to your email list. It's a great way to take really good long form content and chunk it out, and then you've got content for a month. I also want you to get excited. I hope that people, all of you attendees today, are watching this going, yeah, we can do this. It's a lot. I know it's a lot. You're going to pick the things that work for you. But if you're sort of feeling dry, I don't know what new things we could try. Here's some ideas of new tactics that truly will help increase your donor life cycle and your numbers of gifts and the amount of your average gifts. Run a giving day. Pick a day that's meaningful to your organization. Giving Tuesday is a great example. That's just a giving day. And a lot of marketing goes out around it, and it's like a lot of anticipation. If you've tried to get the Facebook matching dollars, you know how sad that is on Giving Tuesday. But pick a day and run a giving day. Find a match maybe to run on that giving day. Beginning, middle, and end. It's over. It's a short campaign. Open a Facebook group for your monthly donors or for certain types of supporters or for volunteers. Folks want community. and connection right now because we have been in such a period of isolation. People are looking to make connections. So that might be something you want to consider. If you're not doing peer-to-peer fundraising, you might want to test it. It's a great evergreen thing. I don't want birthday presents. Please give to this organization that's close to my heart instead. Very easy, very low cost things to set up. You could use Facebook to do that. You could use a platform to do it. Experiment with giving levels. Amp it up, 10 bucks. Your lowest giving level, raise it by $10. See what happens. And the other piece here is if you don't have an open giving amount on your donation forms where the donor can put anything in, I would really encourage you to add them because you might be surprised the numbers that people will pop in to that open gift field if you make it available to them. Add new payment methods, things like Google Wallet, Apple Pay. I'm not talking Bitcoin. If you are in the Bitcoin donation realm, I salute you because a lot of us are very foot draggy when it comes to that stuff. But people do want to pay in all different convenient ways. So expand from just the standard credit cards. Try a virtual challenge. We're going to see how many people can jump rope for 5 minutes on this day. And sign up here, ask your friends and family and relatives to donate $5 for every 10 minutes that you can jump rope or every 100 jumps. Just completely made that up, but that's what a virtual challenge is. And I've said it a couple times, explore SMS. That's different than text to give. It's another way to communicate to your supporters that something is going on. You've got a new event, virtual event that you're running. Try sending the link through texting. You've got a new edition of your email newsletter or your annual report just came out. Try communicating through text messages. You will be shocked at how many people will be clicking those links. I always like to wrap it up before we get to the Q&A with an accidental techie pep talk, right? This is a huge opportunity for collaboration inside other teams. If you're a grassroots organizing organization and you and your advocacy team have never really collaborated, do it in 2021. There's power in collaboration more than ever now. You can do anything. I just laid a whole bunch of suggestions and ideas on you. Pick one. Just pick one. It is not about perfection. It is about progress. We're all doing the best we can. So you can do any of these things. I know that you can, but don't try to do everything. Don't bite off more than you can chew, especially if it's new to you. Check that internal resistance to change. If immediately when someone suggests something innovative, you've got one of two responses, which is we don't have money or we tried that already. Just like erase those from your vocabulary. You might want to practice. Tell me more about that. Tell me what you think that is going to do for our organization and our supporters. I'm interested. I'm in a learning stance. Glinda is not going to show up with her magic wand and poof, update all your technology. So if you're in spreadsheets, you don't have a database, it's hard to get a single source of truth. You got to look in 6 spreadsheets to see what events somebody attended over the past 5 years, and in another place to see email, and another place to see their donations. So be willing to invest in the right technology. Think back to that inventory that I advised you to take. What's getting an F? Focus on budgeting just for that change. And really, really, you don't need to know it all to do it well. I promise you, you have gotten to this point in your careers. You are leaders. People like you. People trust you. A lot of responsibility comes with that. But you don't need to be a technology expert to do a little better. You just need to use your smarts and sort of make a plan, do some research, invest a little time and money and energy, and you're going to be able to make changes and make progress. And 2021 is bringing this, to some of us anyway, a feeling of relief and release. Like, I'm going to be able to see my family. I might be able to travel at the end of the year. And what I'm going to say is the last message here is take that sense of we got through the worst of it, let's hope, And what are my lessons learned, and how can I keep moving forward and keep progressing? Because your team and your supporters are counting on that. And now I think it's time for us to go over to the Q&A. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this recording, and I'll meet you in just a second live, and I cannot wait to answer all of your questions. Thanks so much. I'll see you in a sec.
Okay, very good. All right. Facebook fundraising is good and bad because we don't get the donors' information. Should we try to grow our Facebook giving program or try to get everyone to do something else?
This is a tricky question. So the answer is what you can do well inside your organization is what you should be trying to make happen. Facebook is good and bad. You don't get the money right away. Most of the donors don't opt in. You just get a big check from Network for Good or a wire transfer, and then your database administrator has to play Sherlock Holmes to kind of figure out who to designate these gifts to. But people like giving on Facebook. Whatever we personally feel about the Facebook universe, donors give there, and they are giving in high numbers, both dollars and number of gifts. So my advice is really to think of Facebook as something different than what we usually have, which is control. I can control what fields a donor fills out on my donation form. Can't control that on Facebook, but that is not a reason to toss it aside. You don't get charged fees when donors give through Facebook, which is a big benefit. And you can also think about doing things like, doing some kind of big post on Facebook once a week to thank anybody who has given, even if you don't know who they are. You're not going to convert and cultivate everybody who gives on Facebook to become a true supporter of yours, who's getting your email messages and things like that. But recognize and appreciate them and be grateful for that revenue stream, even though you can't control it as well as others.
Okay, great. Our next one. We want to grow our monthly donor program, but it's totally manually managed right now. How do we automate this so we can grow and not crush our team?
Yeah, this is a champagne problem, my friends. It's like I want that monthly revenue. I want that donor to set it and forget it and just support me forever, as long as that credit card is good. Where you get into trouble is when you're not either using the right technology to manage this giving program, or you're not leveraging the technology you have. So thinking about monthly donors as being able to automatically update a credit card, run those transactions once a month. That's the kind of thing that PayPal, for example, to our earlier question, is going to be more challenging for you to set up for somebody to just give 20 bucks a month forever. So look at your own tools and lean on them. Talk to your software vendor. If you're not sure, are we doing this all manually, but it could be set up automatically? Ask your vendor, how do I use your tools to facilitate a monthly giving program? I've worked with clients who every day they manually run a zillion credit cards offline, and that is a waste of their time and energy, although it's in service of that revenue and that financial support. So I think you have people who want to give. Monthly is hot, it's not going away. And so I would figure out how you can use the tools you have, check into your business processes, see where you can let the tools do the work that a human doesn't really need to do. Hope that helps.
Okay. And Maureen, I got a message that I guess maybe my voice might be muted or not coming through. So maybe you can recap my question when you answer.
Sure. Yes.
That'd be great. Was the reduction in average donation due to an increase in 2020 in the number of small dollar donors?
Great question. So the question Twana just asked is, was the reduction in the average gift amount in 2020 due to more small dollar donors? And that's exactly right. Whoever posed that question is right on the nose. It has to do with more but less at the same time. More $10 donors, fewer $50,000 donors, let's say. So at the end of the day, people did come out ahead. Many organizations did raise more in total dollars than they had in previous years, but it came in lots of really tiny gifts. Hope that helps.
Okay. Next question said, I know you said that older people use technology, but supporters really like giving through mail. So I'm going to say snail mail.
Yeah.
How do we handle this?
So the question is, older people use technology, but our supporters really like giving through the mail. Yay for direct response. How do we handle this? So you handle this by communicating with people in the channels they want. And you find that out by asking them, which communication channels do you like? And you continue to accept money through the channels that people want to give through. Direct response, snail mail, right? Direct mail is always and has been forever the giant pipeline of revenue into organizations. It's beat digital. As a pro-digital person, I will admit and appreciate that much of the revenue and giving comes in through direct response. So if your program is a powerhouse and you can count on it bringing in 50, 60, 70% or more, don't drop that. Just because Bob, your older donor, also likes your Facebook posts, use those channels to reinforce messages and meet people where they're at. That's why as new channels come on, TikTok, forget about Instagram, TikTok, and who knows what some kid at MIT is inventing right now that we're all going to be using in a couple of years. See where people are and meet them there. And once a year, it's not a bad idea to send a survey out and ask that question, how would you like to hear from us? And make sure you're segmenting your communications and your efforts appropriately. If you've got a huge Twitter audience, hardly anybody on LinkedIn, you can either choose to try to grow LinkedIn or focus where people already are. I hope that's helpful.
Very good. I'm going to ask a follow-up on that. Like, where do you draw the line? If you have all these different avenues, do you whittle it down to 2 or 3? Or because if you do 7 different ways of fundraising and communication, that can get a bit overwhelming.
So Twana just asked, for those of you who are having a hard time hearing her, how many channels should I need to play with or use? What's too thin and I become less effective? Twana, I'm going to ask you a question back before I answer this. How many channels do you think the average nonprofit uses to communicate with their subscribers and supporters?
2.
10.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It explains why we need to hire more people, right? And stuff like that. The average nonprofit, when I looked last year, used 10 channels. And I imagine that's probably still pretty true throughout the pandemic. We really did focus on those digital engagement channels because we couldn't invite people into our buildings or have salons or, major galas. I think that, again, finding out where people are and what channel works for you, and not just what works for you because people like it, or I have more followers here than I have in other places. A lot of this is testing. And a lot of it is testing not only your images, your videos, your content, but where do you get engagement? This is about conversations, right? It's not just about plopping out your Instagram quote of the week, although I'm guilty of that myself. It's really about, now somebody likes it, maybe writing back or doing a repost and saying, I'd love to know what you liked about this, or ask a question in the post so that you can start to get dialogue. When you're testing channels, you're testing the calls to action and levels of engagement, not just followers. So please think about not only am I going to put stuff out there for people to see and understand me and my organization and how we're fulfilling our mission, but also what am I going to ask them to do as a result of seeing that post? Not every post needs to be a call for money or funding, should not go there. But on the other hand, you do want to get people to come visit your website, read this new blog post. That's the kind of behavior you're looking for on any channel, on your website, in your e-newsletters or your appeal content, and certainly on social media. Twana, I'm going to ask you another question and then I'll restate it just to make sure people can hear you this morning. I'm interested as someone who, has younger folks in your family and in your home. How do you stay on top of what's going on out there in the digital space? Okay, sounds like our audio is back.
Yes. Okay.
Friends. So Twana, how do you as a professional stay in touch with information that is relevant to you? Do you follow people on social media, other accounting firms or your clients?
I do. I get, a lot of emails come through. And so, I do quickly look at emails. I may not read them all, but I'll scan it just real quick before I hit the delete button on Facebook. And I will tell you, I have two children. One is 22 and one is 18. And they will tell me that, Mom, Facebook, that's for older people. And okay, and I'm going to tell my age here. I'm in my 50s. But I'm on Facebook a lot, and my friends are on Facebook a lot. My kids who are the younger, they're more the Instagram folks. Mm-hmm. So we're on different social media. I'll post something about one of my kids and they'll be like, oh, I didn't even see it, because they're not looking there. So they're on a different spot. So I think the takeaway for that is, if you're trying to reach all across, you need to know what the different groups are really looking at. So I have to admit, I'm a Facebook, and then LinkedIn to a certain extent, and then emails. So that's primarily where I get a lot of information and communication.
You fit right into that demographic.
I know. I'm an average 50-some-year-old middle-aged woman.
And I will just put a call to action out here to people who are watching. Please pop your questions in. We do have time to answer some more. And Twana and I would love to make this as relevant for you and your own circumstances as possible.
So Maureen, I'm going to turn the question back to you. I guess the two main platforms, and you said 10. Yeah. And I know there's not a magic number, because it really would depend on, but is 10 too much?
I think if you are a small and mighty organization with a tight team of maybe 12 people, 15 people, 10 is probably too much. I'm a solo consultant. I'm a solopreneur, and I use 3 channels plus my website and email. And even that, makes me either work on weekends or feel guilty that I'm not posting as much as I should. The thing that is interesting about this generational use of platforms that you just talked about with your kids, Twana, is that if you're looking for millennials, I hear every week, our donors are getting older. We got to find some new ones. And you're going to look in a younger pool, generally speaking, right? If your donors are aging out, their greatest generation, they're boomers, early boomers, as opposed to the late boomers, like some of us are. I think that you want to look at the kinds of asks that you're putting in front of younger people. Millennials are not babies. Millennials are 40. Okay, so remember that. Millennials are 40.
That's a little scary. And I always thought the millennials were the young ones.
They were, and now they are not. They have grown up just like we have. So look at your donation forms. You might want to put a micro donation level down, like $5. Anything that is going to make a younger person with less disposable income possibly feel like I'm ready, $5, I'm in, or $5 a month, which, adds up over a year to a good amount of a gift. So I would think about what you're doing to entice those younger folks. to learn about you and give to the extent they can give. It looks like we've got a new question come in, Twana. So should we take that?
Yes, and I'm not sure quite the end of this, so I'm going to go where I think it is because it's a little bit cut off. But the question is, we're not a new nonprofit, but we've been primarily funded through grants and contracts. And we're trying to diversify our funding into more fundraising efforts. So I'm guessing that other than the regular grants and contracts route, what would be the best route to go down this path?
I would think you asked this question yourself. I know you didn't, but you finished it up really, really well. So, okay, if you are primarily, let's say, foundation or governmental, some type of grant funding has been running and growing your organization, diversification, the time is now. Because all you need, and Twana is a finance person, can verify this, all you need is a couple of those grants to go away or get big bites taken out of them. There we go. Other than the tips to try, any next step. So you were right.
Right. Okay. I guess right. Because I know nonprofits.
Yeah. So I would do just two things to get started. The first is to look at your existing donor file and do some wealth screening on them. See who has propensity and ability to give, what other organizations these folks are funding, and start to develop a major giving program inside your organization. I think that will really help. The second thing I would do is grow your email list. If you've not really focused on getting a chunky list, and by chunky, I mean 1,000 people. That's a good threshold for a chunky email list. You really don't have enough people to ask for an annual giving program. So I would say push out there everywhere in your email signature, on social media, join our email list and focus on once a month pushing out some interesting content, a little video here, a little quote from somebody who benefits from your organization there, a story. And once you've got a critical mass on your email list, and it can happen more quickly than you think to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, then you have enough people to start sending email appeals out. I hope that's helpful for the person.
I think that's good information. We have another question, and thank you for the questions. We are a new nonprofit. Oh, this is a great question. We are a new nonprofit. Where do we start?
Oh, my friends, nonprofit.
Let's have a quiet moment,
That's right. You start in your quiet moment of the soul. Now, what you really should be doing is concentrating on a presence, some kind of physical presence, physical digital presence, and pick a channel. Where do people talk about things that are related to your mission? And the other thing is, who else is out there in the space that is a collaborator or a partner of yours who would be willing to send some chaperoned email messages out on your behalf to their list? It's a great way to get new eyeballs on your content and get people sort of excited about your mission. Have a decent website. It does not need to be big. 10 pages is all you need, that actually really does a good job of bringing people into your community and gives them things to do once they're on your site. And then finally, email, start gathering those subscribers. Use a very low cost or free email tool like Constant Contact or MailChimp. Die hard, good deliverability, really inexpensive. You can go to TechSoup and get some discounts on all of your technology and tools. So I would start small and start keeping track of your lists of names. Maybe look at a database instead of a spreadsheet. That might be another way for you to use those records that you're starting to grow.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Maureen. You had a wealth of information. Really appreciate your time today and sharing your knowledge with us. So thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure. I've loved every minute of planning and executing this conference. And I wish everybody out there a wonderful rest of the conference and a great day. Thanks, Twana.
Thank you.